Hello. Happy Tuesday evening. Going to be a big review tonight in true crime. It's been a busy week, and we've got some things to catch up on. I'd like to first ask, how is the audio? If you hear anything weird, just let me know. If it's too loud or if it's breaking up, anything like that, before we get started into a great detail. We've got a lot to cover. Yeah, I got plus signs. I think that's a good thing. Yeah. All right. So basically, if you saw the thumbnail, we've got quite a few cases to cover tonight. There's been lots of stuff going on with Karen Reed, Lori Vallow, the Tate brothers, obviously. We've got a little bit on PDiddy and Jayz. We got Alec Baldwin. You know, there's just a lot. And then also Zachary Hughes, which is the Christina Parcell homicide, also known as the Rose Petal murder. Well, I think what I would like to start with, if it's okay with you guys, is I think I'd like to start with Karen Reed, just to get that one out of the way. And let me bring up what I have as far as that. For Karen Reed. Yeah, I see which is the this is. There we go. So, Karen Reed, we had the Dauber hearing that started in December. Remember, we were talking about Dr. Marie Russell, who is the defense's expert witness who was helping them with their dog bite theory, or with which kind of went into this whole third party accusation against the owners of the home, and that John O'Keefe was not hit by Karen Reed's car, that he was actually beat up in the home and then dragged out and left to die in the snow. Um, this is one of the key pieces that they were using to try to put doubt to the jury that the way the prosecution laid out the case, that Karen Reed is actually backed into him and left John O'Keefe there to die in the snow. This was reasonable doubt and their plausible alternative theory, one of the evidence pieces. Now, it was a very long hearing. Yeah. And it took 2 days because, the new defense attorney, Robert Alisi, he took over for the Dauber hearing for this witness, and he did all of the talking and all of the loud work. And yes, he made it very, very clear. It was very clear to everyone that Dr. Marie Russell, his years of experience in the ER, 30 years of experience as a doctor, treating patients in the ER, treating numerous dog bites and accident victims. That no doubt about it. She's also got some law enforcement um history. Okay, she was a police officer. She also worked as a forensic examiner for a period of time. So it's not that she's not got the credentials. She absolutely does. And recently, Judge Beverly Cannon put out an order saying she is going to be allowed to testify in the trial because she is definitely credible as far as the amount of experience she has in recognizing a dog bite, and that she used regular medical expertise in doing a differential diagnosis. And she has the background to be able to do that. However, under cross examination by Hank Brennan, several issues did come up in regards to what information she used to do that. In Hank Brennan made a very valid point. She's only going by her prior experience of other dog bites that she's seen. She did not look at any of the other evidence in regards to the case. She only looked at the autopsy photos of the wounds. She never examined the body. She didn't know of or care about shards of plastic and glass that were found in the clothing that could also be contributing to the holes that were in his clothing, which she said were only used because of dog bites. Okay, just the dog bites. Okay. She was very, it was like she made up her mind before she even saw anything. This is what Hank Brennan, this was my opinion of what he was trying to put out there. And in a way, it resonated. It really did. Because even in Judge Canon's order, she would say whether the testimony holds water, like she didn't use those words, but whether the testimony of Dr. Marie Russell is credible or not is a matter for the jury, because cross-examination will bring up the issues, and it's a matter of the jury to decide. She's definitely credible to testify, and the defense has a right to put the theory forward if they'd like. It's going to be fireworks, because it was quite evident she was going by her memory of previous cases. It also came to light how she became the expert witness in this case. She contacted the defense, saying after she had heard that they were discussing that they were dog bites, that she could actually be beneficial to them because she was sure they were dog bites. In other words, she had already made up her mind before she was even hired to be the expert witness. That's what it appeared to me. I clearly heard that in the testimony, that she had contacted the defense saying that she could be helpful to them, that those were dog bites. She clearly thought they were from the start. She's not wavering on it. She actually said no other information would have been necessary because she knows what a dog bite looks like, and she's not taking anything else into consideration. That to me put some doubt on her testimony. She's very well qualified as an ER physician. I have no doubt on her skill, but her stubbornness in her inability to look at all of the evidence, I think the jury may have an issue with that. If I was on the jury, I would, you know. So, anyway, I don't know what you guys think about. But anyway, that was Judge Canon's order. Now, that's not the only thing that we have to discuss in regards to Karen Reed, because there are still, in regards to this, the Commonwealth has also put out a discovery note that they now have DNA. They have identification documents of Chloe. Okay, there is some DNA that they're going to be bringing. They've got copy of digital forensic analysis report of Jessica Hyde in regards to the new Celebrate Celebrate software and the testimony that was done there. They've got copy. They're putting in the copies of Tully notes in regards to an MSS report, page 106, the date stamp. And this is all in regards to Celebrex in regards to Chloe. Okay. So they're going to be pushing back on the testimony a lot. Okay. From what we could tell. And I could tell because Hank Brennan's been very busy. I am sorry I misspelled Mr. Brennan's name up there. I know it needs another N, and I will fix it after. Well, the prosecution's motions to exclude other expert witnesses include Richard Green, who was the defense's cell phone expert, so to say, that he does cloud storage, and he's able to do extractions on cell phones and things like that. Mr. Green testified in regards to Jen McCabe's text message that was recorded at 6:27, house long to die in cold. He was the one who testified for the defense that actually happened at 2:27 a.m. in the morning, contrary to what the Celebrite information and expert had said during the trial, that the 227 was an open browser where she was looking up Hockby stackers, because the browser was open at 227. When she started to type the second one at 6 something in the morning, she used the same, just went to the browser and started to type it in. But it was not sent at 227. The browser was first opened at 227 while she was looking at hockey stats and things like that. That was Jen McCabe's testimony. That was the testimony of the actual witnesses for the prosecution in regards to the Celebrate data from the cell phone. Richard Green was the defense one who actually had a different story. Now, in Hank Brennan's motion, he actually he states in clear words, it's completely debunked. And he uses that terminology. And he then actually talks about the new Cellbrite update that actually clarifies what his expert witness said is actually what happened, and that there is absolutely no evidence submitted by this expert witness to document what he says actually happened at 2:27 a.m. in the morning. He never did present anything that actually proved any of it or his documentation of it. There's no, it's evidentially debunked, impossible. And so they feel that it's a waste of the court's time, and it would also be invaluable to the jury because it's nonsense. Like, you have to actually have credible defense witnesses to go against the actual testimony of experts on the prosecution side and vice versa. You actually have to have something with evidence and evidentiary backup to go with whatever their opinion is. In other words, an expert witness cannot just take the stand and give opinion. It has to be well documented how that opinion was formed with expertise and documentation to back it up. But nope, not with Richard Green. So there hasn't been a motion yet from Judge Canone. I don't know if there will be a Dauber on this. I have to actually see if the defense is going to contest this with the motion back. I haven't seen it yet. Okay, so far it's only Hank Brennan putting out there like, nope, it's not, we don't want this in. He's also going after the ARCCA employees. That is a company out of Pennsylvania that does accident reconstruction. The defense team had brought forth David Wolf and Andrew Rensher, that actually tried to recreate the accident and were trying to say that it was not possible that John was hit or this, that, or the other thing. There is some issue there under Rule 14 discovery that Hank Brennan says the defense, through no fault of their own, he's not throwing shade on the defense. What he's saying is not that they're not capable, it's just the timing and whatever. They did not qualify for Rule 14 discovery needs in regards to the employment history and relevance of the testimony of David Wolf and Andrew Rensher. This is a new trial. They can't go by the old. And, they're not, he's contesting that it be allowed out. He's using this procedural error or this procedural lack of time to actually get those two witnesses removed, to again go against reasonable doubt that the defense was putting forward that the accident actually happened in the way the prosecution's case is being laid out against Karen Reed. If these three are removed, these are basically the defense's witnesses that brought up most of the reasonable doubt. Everything else was in cross-examination of prosecution witnesses where many of the members, the owners of the house, and also those that attended the after-bar party at the house where John O'Keefe was discovered in the front lawn off to the side. Everyone there was actually hostilely interrogated as to whether John O'Keefe was actually there, whether they had personal problems with him, whether an altercation had happened, in and of such. But it seems like that's unraveling a little bit here. It seems like Hank Brennan wants to do a more streamlined presentation in regards to what happened that night. And he is trying to get rid of all the loose threads, so to speak. Or however, he's doing a pretty good job. Coming in with fresh eyes, I think he is actually, as a new prosecutor should, reevaluating all of the evidence and looking at the defense cases and doing what he needs to do there in regards to whether this is actually relevant to the case and how he can actually have it removed. Because remember, the defense wants to put probable reasonable doubt on just about everything and bring up alternate theories to the case in general or contest against the experts. They're going to be doing the same thing. We're waiting still on the defense response in regards to these. We haven't seen it yet. It should be interesting. Things have been coming out a little bit slower. We're going to be addressing another motion because remember on December 5th, Gretchen Voss actually filed another reconsideration because the court had ordered that she had to disclose everything, and she's kind of like fighting back. Now, Gretchen Voss was the actual reporter who did the interview that Hank Brennan has said he wants all of the records because all three attorneys were there, and there are major exclusions from the audio tape that are bleeped out, and there is no attorney-client privilege because they had another party there, ergo the interviewer or Gretchen Voss. So if they were coaching and there was a lot of changing of answers, and so he asked for all the documentation. Now, he did get it from Boston and Variety, but he did not get the ones out of New York in regards to Mr. Reed, like the backup, because he only has the interview in whatever they would send because that was out of jurisdiction. Because the records were all held in New York, he didn't have the authority in Massachusetts to demand. It's up to the New York court, and he hasn't gone through that process yet. Judge Canone could not issue a directive because of lack of authority. He would have to subpoena and ask the New York court to weigh in on that. It's a little different because in Massachusetts, there is no privilege for the journalists, but in New York, there is. So it would not be as successful. I don't think he's going to be wasting the time, but can't speak for him. I mean, who knows what he'll do on that? But as of now, it's been denied. But however, everything from the Boston papers in the Boston outlet, they have all come forward. But Gretchen Voss is contesting, and let me just she does not want to give all of it. She says it's a violation. She's contesting it greatly. They're going to we're actually going to be talking about this January 24th. Oh wait, no. On the 31st. Actually, the 24th is when everybody has to have the Commonwealth has to have their response in against her motion for it not to go through. She's actually wants reconsideration of it. Great. She has said in testimony and in her affidavits that she's been threatened, and this puts her in a very awkward position, in that it's not relevant, and it's an overreach. A lot of things in there. Well, I actually think I had a copy of that for you, and I am actually gonna look for that and post it in the chat for you. Where is that? Karen. Okay, here are the motions from Brennan, if you're interested. There's one more. This one is in regards, this one's a little long. This one's just a notice, though, in regards to the ARCCA employees, Mr. Wolf and Rensher. Wasn't really too much there, More interesting, I think, is in this article. You will find you'll find the whole December 5th filing of Gretchen Voss's motion for reconsideration, which I found to be a lot more in depth. And that will be this last one. Oh, you know what? He's telling me the link is too long. Hold on. Now I got to make you a tiny URL. But that brings us up. That'll bring us up to date, I believe, on pretty much on Karen Reed. We are going to have the hearing on January 31st in regards to this motion. Just enter this really quick. And sometimes these articles make the thing too long. Okay, and inside this article, here's a tiny URL for you. Could somebody try to open that? Maybe one of the odds, just to make sure that that works okay. I don't want to give out that. So the other news for Karen Reed is we finally know for sure that everything is accepted and we're going forward on April 1st of 2025 for the trial, and I was uncertain at the last hearing because I didn't actually hear it until the very end of the hearing. She actually said it. I had missed the actual notification on the board for that one. So it's definitely going to be April 1st of 2025 for Karen Reed. Well, pretty much that's our update for Karen Reed. I like it round. We'll go like on that. All right. The next really long one that I want to talk about is let's see. We're going to go with we'll go with Mr. Reed. Mr. Hughes, rather, sorry. Well, first I'm going to look at the chat for questions. Hello, Mrs. Cassandra. Hi, Shill. Couch, it's good to see you. Thanks for hanging out over there. Over in Twitchville. It's good to see you, Mrs. Cassandra. Shawn, Jinksu, it's nice to see you too. It's good to have everybody here. I'm just checking if you've got any questions on Karen Reed stuff before I go forward. April 1st, are they going to prank people? I thought there was too much in that case. You know what? That whole case is a prank sometimes, I think. Actually, thanks. Oh, that's very funny. But yeah, isn't it? It's going to be definitely April 1st. Thanks for the ordering, Wrecker. Like, I hope the audio sounds good to your ears. Let me know if it doesn't, if I have to fix anything. All right. I'll give you guys just another moment before I move on with this one. This can go down. Okay, that's good. All right. Don't mind me. I'm sitting here talking to myself while I'm waiting. The docs the Voss doc says it's a poor copy and they're not kidding. Exactly. It's kind of like warped because they did like photograph like from a table or something. It's not good, but I couldn't get the actual. I'll keep looking, and if I get a better one, I'll definitely forward it on to you there, Jingzu. Okay. All right. Now we're going to move on to Zachary Hughes. Now, Zachary Hughes is the accused of the murder of Christina Parcell in Greer, South Carolina, back in October of 2021. Okay. It's hard to believe at first sight when you see Mr. Hughes. He's a concert pianist. He had no connection to Christina Parcell at first. That they thought it was unbelievable that he was actually charged with this murder in the beginning. He's an upstanding citizen in the community. He was well liked. He was doing concerts everywhere. He had everything going for him. It did not seem reasonable at the time. As you can see, like just the difference between a concert pianist and then a mugshot. I mean, it's kind of striking. Well, it gets a little more convoluted. On canebrake at Christina Parcell's home in October of 2021, her body was discovered by her fiance, Bradley Post, uh, surrounded by on the floor, surrounded by rose petals. She had been stabbed, based by the autopsy, 31 times. Very personal, all in the head and neck area. Very personal attack, very bloody, very violent. Okay. The case is from October of 2021. Christina Parcell was a veterinary assistant. She was very well loved by everybody over there at the vet's office, neighbors. Nobody had anything to say really negative about her. Her sister, she had a divorce. She had a daughter. Uh, she was married to John Mello, and she had a daughter, and they were in a custody suit, back and forth. She had custody of her daughter at the time. Um, Here in John Mello was her ex-husband, and Bradley Post was in the current year of 2021. She had met him and was now her fiance. When she didn't answer phone calls in the morning, he went to see, and the body was discovered. Now, this case gets really messy. Um, Bradley Post is the boyfriend. John Joey Mello is the father of the daughter, and Zachary Hughes is accused of the actual murder. Now, the only tie to Christina Parcell of Zachary Hughes is through John Mello. They apparently know each other very well. Um, there are in evidence over 1,700 WhatsApp messages between Zachary Hughes and John Joey Mello in regards to Christina Parcell, including the day of the murder. A lot of them are in code, according to the prosecution, not actually saying, what they're referring to, but it does look like they were working together because there are other charges in other cases involved on top of this murder case. But just to be clear, Zachary Hughes is being accused of murdering Christina Parcell, okay, on October 13th of 2021. Okay. The other cases that are involved are because Bradley Post is the boyfriend, fiance at the time and discovers the body. Of course, there is an interview that happens with him and they look at his phone. They found child pornography files in regards to Bradley Post in his devices. He's been charged with additional sex charges of child pornography. This got very convoluted because Christina Parcell gets mentioned in this also, because it appears that there may have been pictures of her daughter and Christina Parcell that are part of this case. Okay. And this actual case against Bradley Post is a bone of contention in the murder trial. Okay. Because the defense for Zachary Hughes wants to bring that in. They want to bring that in to show that there may be mitigating factors as to why Zachary Hughes would have killed Christina Parcell. If the child was in danger, if he felt that there was stuff going on and she wasn't doing anything about it, like a mitigating factor. It will not negate the murder charge, but it could be used to actually help with mitigating factors in regards to sentencing or where the jury goes with it. Also, trying to incite with the jury, maybe jury nullification. In other words, well, you did do the murder, but we feel so strongly you had a reason to do it that we don't agree with the law that you should be charged. Basically, that's what jury nullification is. They'll say, yeah, you're guilty, but I would have done the same thing if it was my child, kind of thinking. You know what I mean? So, not something the prosecution needs to worry about, and they're fighting hard to keep all of this. Actual Bradley Post needs to come in as a witness because he found the body, but the actual mentioning of the CP and stuff like that, they're trying to limit the scope to not damage the reputation of Christina Parcell during the trial, for one, and trying to say it's just inflammatory, that there's actually no evidence that Christina Parcell was guilty of uh, uh, see, child pornography in any way, or that there was any abuse of the daughter. So, like, without that being solid evidence, it would be hard to bring it in under the rules of evidence in the court. So they're fighting back and forth, and it's been a bone of contention, and it's still going on, even though the trial was supposed to start on Monday. Okay. It's still going back and forth. But there are other charges that are actually going to come up, and they also are a problem in this case. And that is because both Zachary Hughes and John Mello are facing additional charges for sending out nude photos of Christina Parcell in a harassment campaign to discredit her, to her job, to her neighbors, to all of her family members. They have documented a case of targeted harassment that was probably part of trying to get a leg up on his custody. Apparently, John Miller was not very pleased with the arrangements, and it looked like he was doing everything he could to damage Christina Parcell's reputation in this way. And actually, Zachary Hughes was helping him by hand delivering a lot of these photographs or mailing them himself. John Mello was not always in the United States while this was going on, and apparently Zachary Hughes was helping him with it. And it's going to become another part of the case, another very damaging part of the case. It's just crazy how involved everything is. Wait a second. Her dad and the concert pianist were contacting each other? Yes, they were. Over 1,700 WhatsApp messages, including the day of the murder. You know, I don't like how much this seems to happen when people have that sort of stuff on their computer. Exactly, couch. Like, why would you even keep it anywhere? And the boyfriend was not in contact with him, but was into child pictures. Exactly, Juju. You see what I mean? It's like all very, very weird. Makes me almost validated knowing that the word goof means in Canadian. Yep. Yeah, we're going to need a flow chart. Yeah. You can say that and I'll at least know what you mean. Okay. Yep, you did hear it right. Flowchart. We're going to need the evidence wall with pictures in red yarn. Yes, we are. That's basically how this case really is. And it gets a little crazier because you're not going to believe what happens next. Like, we've been following this, since October, and I must say, Fitz News. If you go to my playlist, it's full of Fitz News because they did a great, like, 5 or 6 part breakdown on how really detailed this gets into all of the investigation and everything. And they just did a new summary. I got like 2 or 3 short little parts about it over the last couple of years, and they're in there too. But Fitz News, definitely, they're in South Carolina, they're local, and they really went in deep on it. And I think that when somebody does work of that caliber in that expert, I mean, why would I redo it? Exactly, like, because it's done so well and it's so precise. There's really not a need, and I want to give them full credit. Okay, full credit for it and keeping everybody up to date. They've also been very generous in sharing all the documents. You can go to their summary that I also have in the playlist for that was just put out a week ago, and actually documents are in there for key pertinent parts of the case that you can track down. They've been very fair on it, you know. Exactly. It is very wild. I agree, Juju. And like I said, it's going to get just a little bit wilder. So buckle up. Okay. Okay. Now I told you the documents reveal an evidence debate back and forth about Bradley Post and Christina Parcell in the CP part of this whole thing. The defendant would be using the shock value and heinousness associated with the CP case to, mitigate the circumstances in regards to why Christina Parcell was murdered. Okay. And of course, prosecution has a huge issue with that, and you can understand why. And that's going back and forth. So right now they're limiting the scope of how the defense can cross-examine Bradley Post and what his testimony will actually be about. Because he was the one who's discovered the body. He was the boyfriend of Christina Parcell at the time. He has pertinent information to give to the case, but it is the risk to put him on the stand because of this. And it's going to be how they carve this out, that it goes back and forth. But the judge has their hands full in regards to that. Okay. But it gets even crazier because on Monday, we started jury selection. If you saw my community post, jury selection started in Greer, South Carolina for this case. Okay. However, the court was unable to qualify enough jurors. Yes, you heard that right. They wanted to seat 12 with only 4 alternates. They needed 16. Well, they ran into difficulties with jurors unable to commit to at least 2 weeks for a trial. They sent out 161 jury summonses. 93 of them failed to appear in court on Monday. You heard that right. 93 out of 161 didn't show. They've got an increasing backlog. Remember, South Carolina got hit, along with North Carolina and several in Tennessee and a lot of places with the hurricanes over the season. Not really sure what's going on there right now, but it is really difficult if you don't have enough jurors. It really is. But anyway, long and short, the court's trying to deal with it. They're trying to send out other summonses and reevaluate, contact those that didn't show up. They're rescheduling the trial within 45 days, but we don't have the date yet. They're working with the sheriff and the solicitor's office to do the summonses and everything, and talking about what they can do about the low juror turnout. Because actually not answering a summons is a violation. Okay, and there is penalties for that, and you can end up in jail. Just saying, you have to be formally excused to not show up. It appears like some people in South Carolina forgot that. Yeah. Hello, Paula. Hmm. 93 people not showing up for jury made me laugh out loud. It feels so American. It really does. It really does. It was absolutely a complication. Not that I'm giggling about this, because Christina Parcell deserves justice. Her daughter, her family and friends, everybody who knew, they deserve justice. We need to get this to trial. I have not had this be a reason for a delay in trial in quite a while. There's no jury. We can't get a jury. I have seen where in the middle of jury process, remember, Shawnee Crawl threatened his attorney, and in the middle of the process of jury selection, they found out about a murder plot, and they had to move the whole trial and like sequester the jury and like the whole thing. Like that was crazy. Okay, but they at least had a jury pool to work with. We've had to move, venues, to get a jury that wasn't biased, or at least the best possible chance of an unbiased jury for the defendant. But never in a court where you just couldn't get enough people to sit for 2 weeks. You know, it's like that was crazy. That was absolutely crazy to me. And I'm gonna look for some questions. Okay, so as soon as we know when the trial will start again for jury selection, we'll put that up. But it should be within 45 days. Remember, they have to do it within a certain period of time once it's been rescheduled. Yeah. Well, this is absolutely it's a very interesting case, but it's very complicated and it's very involved. Once they do the murder trial, then we still have to go over the harassment charges with John Mello and Zachary Hughes. Now, John Mello has not been charged yet in regards to the murder, although it does look, based on the evidence, that there was a conspiracy there. This may be that they're waiting up to trial. They may be trying to get him to testify. They may be working on something. I do not know why he has not been charged. I don't know if it has something to do with Zachary Hughes, with them trying to get a deal with him first. But I do find it curious as to why John Mello, with all of those text messages back and forth in a confirmed harassment case of what he was doing in the custody situation with his ex-wife Christina Parcell, while he's not implicated. Now, as far as we know, he could be, back there as an uncharged co-conspirator for all we know. I'm just not sure. Hey, rabbits, nice to see you. Okay. So, with your permission, Dane, we're going to go on to the next one because we've got quite a bit to cover today. But anyway, that's the update for Zachary Hughes in the Rose Petal murder, the canebrake homicide of Christina Parcell back in October of 2021. The next one I want to talk about is Lori Daybell, and we can now formally call her Lori Daybell only, even though in Maricopa County in Arizona, she was charged under Lori Vallow at the time. So there was these legalities. Every time I said Lori Daybell, somebody was like, a lawyer would actually DM me or be on the back of my video saying, that's not, no, you got to say Vallow. That's the document. That's the legal presentation. Her name is Lori Vallow. I'm like, okay. So then I was saying Lori Daybell Vallow. But now the court, Judge Beresky, just recently, when we did the hearing the other day, which is in the playlist below that you could check out. There's some commentary there also during that hearing that I made in regards to the case, if you want to check it out. But Judge Beresky had said formally that Lori Daybell, because she wanted to be called Daybell, her married name, and the prosecution didn't object, that they would now refer to her as Lori Daybell, formerly Lori Vallow, to comply with the legal documents of the case. No problem. Okay. Lori is pro se now. And she, again, even though her motions were denied in regards to her broad spectrum request for everything to do with every case, she wanted all of the interviews with the Idaho officials, in the Arizona officials, the FBI, the CIA, whatever, all the law enforcement, everything. She wanted everything. She was told to drill it down and be specific as to what she wanted. So then she honed in on her extradition. And Judge Beresky just didn't understand. Like, he's like, can you tell me why? Because your extradition has nothing to do with conspiracy to murder charges that you are facing in Arizona for the death of your husband, your ex-husband, Charles Vallow. And she's like, well, it does, because they were talking with Idaho and they extradited me before my appeal for Idaho was done. And there was an article saying they weren't going to do that, but then they did that. So it's obvious like they're all conspiring, and I need answers. And the judge was like, it doesn't have anything to do with your case now. It doesn't matter. And he asked the prosecution, are you going to present anything that happened after indictment of Lori Vallow for the charges that we're going to trial for? And she said, no, it's irrelevant. Anything that happened during that process is not part of this trial. Okay, which is she's up for conspiracy to commit murder of her husband, Charles Vallow. Period. That's going to happen on March 31st, 2025. That trial. And then after that, she will go for the attempted murder of her niece's ex-husband, Brandon Bordeaux. And that one is for attempted murder. This is for conspiracy to commit murder here. Conspiracy in the murder of Charles Vallow. We know that her brother, Alex Cox, actually admitted to the shooting, said it was self-defense, actually took the blame for the injuries that he received, that he died of. However, the prosecution does believe that was all manipulated by Lori Vallow, and they intend to present a case stating so. Lori in court this is just my opinion right now. She is doing her cutesy. She's twirling over her hair. She is addressing the court, giggles. She does a lot of times the court concentrates on the flipping of her feet. She is always shaking her foot constantly the whole time. And they keep like showing us little parts of it. Most of the court hearings that we've seen, we can only see her from the side a little bit or behind, like in the picture here. But she comes in, she smiles, she's friendly with everybody. She's enjoying this. But it does seem that she's concentrating on none of this is real. This is all a conspiracy. Like, what crime did I actually commit is what she's trying to ask the judge. That's why she needs all of this evidence. And the judge drilled down and he said, in this particular case, there was an indictment in a grand jury. Did you receive the grand jury transcripts? And she said, yes. He said, did you read the grand jury transcripts? And she said, yes, I did. He said, all of the evidence that the prosecution has in regards to the charges of this case and why you were charged is in there. And she says, I know. And he says, well, then what are you asking? Like he just looked at her. He didn't even say, what are you asking for then? It was just so hung in the air like that. Like, duh, excuse me. Why are you asking the court for all of this? Like, that's going to be like no. He denied her motion for the extradition because it has not relevant to her case. And he also denied her other very broad request for every scrap of interview and pace that ever existed between Idaho and Arizona. And it's not pertinent either, because only those related to this case are part of discovery for this case. So in other words, only interviews in regards to the investigation of Charles Vallow's death, which were started with Arizona, have already been provided to her. All of the interviews that the Arizona law enforcement did with whoever they did them with, whether it would be the Idaho police or the FBI or whoever, in regards to Charles Vallow. She's already been provided that. But now she wants to know, I guess maybe it's a fishing. To me, it might make sense that she's thinking it will help with her appeals in other things if she gets the rest of the information, and she'll get out of these charges if she proves some kind of broad conspiracy to frame her. Because what she was saying is, they came and charged me after Idaho, like after all of that, even though this happened before. There's a conspiracy here of them sharing information that they shouldn't have, a violation of my personal rights. And actually, no, if a crime is committed, your personal rights kind of shrink a little bit there. You know, your privacy issues kind of vanish during an investigation by law enforcement. and the scope is allowed to be widened when you have acted in some nefarious kind of ways. Like, remember, she wouldn't say where the children were. They hid. They wouldn't talk to police or law enforcement. Of course, they're going to start looking deeper into things. When you're acting so darn shady, and you wouldn't talk to them about the children, of course, they're going to start to look at all of these other bodies that are around you, all these other events. This is why they added Tammy Daybell to the murder charges, okay? And they looked into that more too. Things started adding up, okay? Well, when you put the whole picture together, Lori Vallow looks very guilty. Lori Daybell looks darn guilty. I think it's her hope that if we separate all the pieces, she doesn't look so bad. Personally, I think that's a little far reaching, you know. Well, seems to be where she's going, and she represents herself. She has Miss Pamela Hicks there with her every time, and she stays quiet, but it is obvious that she is helping Lori with what she wants to present. She's giving her the right legal language and all, but she really can't help her with this broad scope of discovery unless they drill down exactly what they're looking for. In other words, you can't go on a fishing expedition in regards to this case, you know. You know. Okay. This was from the court here. This is what I was talking about. That's Pamela Hicks, and this is what I'm talking about, her friendly demeanor and everything. She's been wearing her hair like, you know how she puts the rubber band in the little ponytail up atop. It's kind of like a kids. I realize she doesn't have a lot of options in jail. And so I'm not picking on the fact that, you know, she can't like look her best or whatever. She is for her hearings and all that the jury is not present. She's wearing her prison outfit. Um, but like I see, she definitely coming off a bit cute and giggly a little bit. She did push back on Judge Bereski, and he was very patient. But he did actually like, no, you know, there's no there's no reason for the extradition to come up at all, except for the fact that she needed to be extradited from Idaho to Arizona to face these charges after she was found guilty in Idaho. She does not, there's no protection that says you wait until your appeal is final before you're extradited on charges. I mean, there's just an agreement. You've got other places to be while you're waiting, you know. And these charges aren't going to go away if anything happens with the appeal, that she gets a new trial, or something happening. You need technical issues to get a new trial, or to have it overturned or thrown out would not negate, because they're separate trials for separate crimes. The crimes are only related because of the people involved. The crime itself is separate, and she would still have to face these charges. So the judge just said no. He just sent it off as no. Just not having it. Let me just check for questions. Hello, Liz. Yeah, she passed the competency, Liz. She says, I can't believe they are letting her represent herself. She did pass the competency, so she is definitely going to trial March 31st for this part. And then the judge did clarify to her again. She asked in this hearing and the previous hearing, are they going to be tried together? No, both cases will be tried separately in Arizona. The one for Charles Vallow's murder will be first on March 31st, followed by the attempted murder of Brendan Bardot after. They don't have a date for that because they have to see how this proceeds, in whether it goes, and the judge refused to put it on the calendar yet because things could change. Which I don't blame him, because it doesn't make any sense until we get through. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about yes, sorry guys, but yeah, we're going to talk about Andrew and Tristan Tate, the Tate brothers, because there's been a bit of going on with them too. Okay. First of all, I'm sure I'm sure the first thing that Andrew Tate wants me to tell you, and I will oblige, because for him, he got a win today. He's out of house arrest in Romania. Okay, no. It doesn't mean that there's no case. Okay, it doesn't mean anything except for the fact that the first case against him in Romania, remember there were two cases. Case one was sent back to the prosecution to correct some procedural errors. Okay. Now he was indicted under that case. Okay. And at first he was under judicial control. And then a second case with very harsh charges of sex with minors without came up, and that's when he went under house arrest because of, while being under judicial control, he was arraigned under another charge, which was how he got under house arrest. Okay. But because the first part has been sent back, which he was under indictment for and was moving towards trial, since the second set of charges in the second indictment, he has not actually been formally indicted towards trial yet. Okay. It's not through judicial review. There's not enough there to keep him under house arrest. Do you understand? It has to go through, and he's got to be through trial so that they can recognize it and they perhaps put him back under house arrest. I don't know. But he's not free. And contrary to what he's been saying, in this, I'm going to pull this one up for you because this just cracks me up. Andrew seems to have an issue with the truth. I understand that he wanted to celebrate. I really do. I would too. He's not getting a lot of wins lately, and we'll go into that even more. But basically, I don't know how well you can see these, but Andrew Tate posted that the Romanian, this is a headline, okay, that came out. Romanian, and it's from Reuters. Romanian court lifts house arrest on internet celebrity Andrew Tate. And he goes, oh, since we won the case, I'm an internet celebrity now instead of an alleged rapist. 3 years they slandered me knowing it was a matrix attack. You don't hate the media enough. And he got actually community noted on X about this. Oh, because people had to correct him and say, excuse me, Andrew Tate did not win his case. Under judicial control, Tate is required to check in with the police at regular intervals and cannot leave Romania. Tate also has a British arrest warrant and will be extradited after Romanian trial proceedings finish. A court ruled that in March, and there's a whole Reuters article about it. It was absolutely ridiculous. It really was. Okay. He has really gone a bit crazy about it. He was in an actual X Spaces call with Gadget and Murdered by Crayons, who have been doing most of the reporting from Romania back and forth on this. And he was trying to, he's trying to call them all kinds of expletives and, pedophiles and things like that, trying to discredit them. But when challenged with the actual evidence, he literally, when challenged with the fact that Romania itself was reporting that the case was not dismissed and it's got active dating on it, he just ran from the call, like he just left. And then, of course, his followers were saying he was kicked and everything, but the other people are saying no, he wasn't. He just wouldn't answer the question and he left. Like they didn't. He really does want everyone to believe that his case is dismissed. It's not. It's back to the prosecution. They have the option to represent the first part of the case or roll the first one in the second one together for judicial review going forward as one trial. Okay. But it's not being dropped. And things did get well, things did get a little worse for him lately. Um, we know that he lost his tax fraud case in the UK. That was in like mid 2024, before the UK went on their judicial break that they do at the end of, I believe it's September, for a while. They had already ruled that he was guilty. They came back and said, okay, now we're going to put the penalty out there. There's no doubt that this was on purpose, that they purposely hid money so it wasn't taxed in the UK, that they laid out a plan to do it. There's nothing, whatever. They can now have 3.4 million, and that's translated from the 2 point whatever pound million it is, in UK. In American dollars, it would be 3.4 million seized from them, and from both brothers for unpaid taxes in the UK crime, and they are actually guilty of tax fraud now in the UK. On top of the fact that they have an extradition order for charges that they will have to face in the UK once they're done in Romania. But that isn't their only trouble that's going on in the UK, because they also happen to piss somebody off. One, let me see if I can find it again. It was, they're actually going to have to answer for some text messages that they made. Um, let me just go to find this person again. Okay. The actual person, oh yeah, I just found it like fascinating. And I lost the thread again because they've been reporting like nonstop every hour on the hour. Oh, it is the MP Sorcha Eastwood, or Northern Ireland, has launched legal action. KLR Legal Services has picked it up for her, and they're filing against Andrew Tate over social media posts he made against Sorcha Eastwood in back and forth the day after the Commons debate on violence against women and girls. Oh, they are actually going for him. Now, the UK has some very interesting legislation in regards to online harassment and misinformation, chargeable, sanctionable offenses, and they've got a little bit of teeth that they can apply to this. And it looks like they're done playing nice with Andrew Tate. Like, he just pissed off the wrong person. This MP, Sorcha Eastwood, he's decided that I'm done talking, like I'm done allowing this kind of behavior in regards to what we're trying to do stuff good. And they're going for him. And she's actually filing the lawsuit. And we'll be adding that. We'll be adding that to the multitude of cases that we have to cover. Here's the article about it if you'd like to go more into depth with it. Well, basically, she's just not playing. She's been urging the government, all through 2024 to start a conversation in regards to throwing away misogyny in general on social media and the attacks that go on. And it does seem that in the UK, they've already put legislation forward, and they've got pretty much a movement going forward because of what was happening to young boys and how they were being influenced. And they were coming down hard on influencers like Andrew Tate, to be not just Andrew Tate, but many of the influencers like, and that's where a lot of this legislation and all of this came forward. Now, we know that Tate has previously been banned from TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, many social media platforms. He's pretty popular on X. He's probably going to stay there. And he has his own website. He still does have his supporters and his followers, although it does seem to be dwindling somewhat. Just recently, Ben Shapiro was making video clips about creators who are actually supporting the antics of people like Andrew Tate against women, violators accused of crimes in actually being supported, which I think was a direct insult to Candace Owens, his former podcaster on the with his company that separated ways over bullshit like this. Candace Owens still actively supports Andrew Tate publicly as much as she can, based on a relationship that her husband has with him, or so the speculation goes. I don't know that much about it, because when Candace Owens starts to talk, like, I tune out anyway, because I find her to be hypocritical. um, Sometimes she has a good thought about something, she can't back it up. No evidence. It's all, I don't know, smoke and mirrors, so to speak. And I really think she just picks agenda based on what is really going to move her forward. I'm just finding her, what she calls her spine and her fortitude, well, I'm finding it worm-like and a little lacking. So I don't listen, and I was done with that. And I do see that she's still supporting him, but I don't really get into it or follow much about it. But that's not the only trouble that Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate have gotten into recently. I'll take this one down. Because the next one that I have, well, this is even more information. As if it wasn't enough, okay, that they got the UK tax evasion charges, where, in America, there's a history of, you do bad things, and it's a long time to get you in jail. But if we go with the tax code, we can usually get you locked up pretty quick. It's just like Al Capone syndrome, so to speak. Well, that seems to be happening internationally to the Tate brothers, because, you know, again, murder by crayons goes into the Romanian tax records. There's reporting that's happening in Romania itself that says that the Tate brothers are facing 18 years in prison for tax evasion of 28.8 million lei, which is the Romanian dollar there. Yeah, okay, €1 million. Anything that exceeds €1 million, and obviously this does, is punishable by a sentence of between 8 and 15 years. If the crime is continuous, an additional 3 years could be added. Yeah, no kidding. Today, the anti-fraud, this was back in December, that the anti-fraud inspectors of the General Directorate of the Anti-Fraud Taxes, the DGAF, they're checking out two British citizens, Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate. Okay. The whole article goes on. It's all broken down on this thread I'm going to give you. Okay. But definitely it was also put out as a public notice by ANF, which is their taxing association. And here is the thread. They got trouble. Like, they just keep stepping in it. They just keep stepping in it. They just cannot stop these two. Like, I don't know. I guess it's just they think that, like, they're just going to keep countering, that nobody's going to believe anything. This is all the Matrix coming for me. Listen, he keeps saying that he's so popular that this is why everybody's attacking him, because he's the man. He's doing it right. And they just can't handle that he goes against how things, like, we say things should be done, and that it's just a Matrix thing. It doesn't have anything to do with him breaking the law. Like, in his world, it should be okay to have sex with a 15-year-old if he wants, regardless of, in that country, the legal age of consent is 18, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the girl said yes. Doesn't matter if he married her and had children. If he started that relationship, if he started those relations when she was a minor, there is no technical legal consent. And yeah, they can hold him to it. In some countries, take that very seriously. And when you add it up to all of the other things where you are actually bringing women over to do OnlyFans stuff and for you to make money, it's not so much that you have a business doing that. Women have these businesses too. That's not the problem. It's the coercion. It's taking their passports and keeping them there against their will. It's taking all of their money and then doling it out like as if like a pimp. It kind of makes it illegal. And then don't pay any taxes on it. First you make all your money under an illegal racketeering type enterprise according to the prosecution in Romania, allegedly. None of that has been, he's not guilty. He's not been found guilty by a jury of his peers in that regard yet. These are the allegations. Well, not only do you make the money that way, then you don't pay the taxes on it. And we found the money and we found that you didn't pay taxes. So we already know you're guilty of that part. Like now we're going to prove that you got that money illegally and we're going to take it all. Because that's what happens in Romania. That's what happens in most countries with ill-gotten gains through RICO. Everything gets possessed. Everything gets given back. And they make money. That's why RICO is the way prosecutors, if there's a chance of doing it, will go. That's good for the state, good for the country. There's a lot of money coming back if they can find it, if they can prove it. Well, definitely their troubles are not going away. But so that's on the Tate brothers. I'm going to look for questions and then we'll. Hey, Liam, it's good to see you. Mm. Okay, I don't see any questions in regards to Tate. Mrs. Cassandra always refers to him as Tate. You have no questions for him, huh? No, in regards, but that's fine. All right, so let's carry on, Dean. There's more. I got more. Okay. Last one I want to talk to you about today. Not the last one, almost the last one. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I should put down for. I got the Guardian article, the Forbes article, in the crayons thread for Tate. I think you guys have everything, right? I don't think you need to give you anything else on that. Okay, so in regards to, now we're going to talk about the Shawns. We have Shawn Combs and Shawn Carter. Shawn Combs, PDiddy, the diddler, is Mrs. Cassandra likes to refer him to. In Shawn Carter, there's Jayz. Okay, now this is not the criminal case against PDiddy that I'm going to go into depth with. Well, right now, the criminal case in regards to PDiddy is moving forward. There's going to be another hearing. He's still under bail. They're still contesting that, he's being treated unfairly in regards to searches and stuff like that. The judge has not said that's not true. We don't know how many of the pages are going to be able to be used in regards to what they seized, but it does look like it's all going to be usable because of the shenanigans of the attorneys. Okay. None of his attorneys quit. Mark Agnifili is still his attorney. Okay. And his wife actually represents Luigi Mangione. Karen Agnifilo is from the same law firm. Very high-powered attorneys, and they know what they're doing. These are public relations types cases. We're going to talk about one of the civil cases right now that they're both named in. It is the one with the Jane Doe who said she was a minor and went to see the VMA awards or whatever they were, and she could not get in and then went back, and she was assaulted by both P. Diddy and Jay-Z while another celebrity watched. There's been a lot back and forth. First of all, it's a Jane Doe. Jane Doe did, as we discussed in another segment of this that you can find in the playlist below, she did an interview and there was a lot of contrary information that came out in regards to her statements. And so it was able to be fact checked. So Alex Spiro, who is the attorney for Shawn Carter, who is a shark, man, is he quick. He got filing a letter or accusing the other side of not vetting the case, of all these inconsistencies. The whole thing should be tossed. Busby is acting, terrible in regards to legally professional, should be sanctioned. A lot of allegations and all that. A judge goes, whoa, 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 whoa. First of all, this is not how we do this. File an actual motion. First of all, you need a permission to file a motion to dismiss. Okay, so he puts that down, like file it the right way, but up. Also, all this back and forth with the attorneys, back and forth, because then Busby makes accusations that Shawn Carter and them are actually paying people to call the office to offer information falsely and to set them up for phone calls and stuff. Like, it's getting nasty back and forth. So the judge is like, knock it off. Nope. This letter's back and forth. No. Y'all just sit back down, get your professionalism in order. Alex Spiro then petitions the court for Shawn Carter to be able to file a motion to dismiss and possibly sanctions. The judge gives him permission to file it. And so we have that filing. And they are actually going to do it formally, as they probably should have in the first place, but they fired that letter off thinking it would be a quick thing, to do. It didn't work out that way for him, but what are you going to do, right? In the motion dismissed, they attack all of the things that Jane Doe actually said, that they actually have contrary information forward. They also, the way that certain information was not vetted by the attorney, they also are still acting for sanctions for actually putting Shawn Carter's name on the actual suit. It was originally filed without his name. When he didn't actually give in to a negotiation request to sit down and talk about this, or he would be named, he actually said no. He felt like that was threatening. He came out publicly and started attacking Anthony Busby, the opposing the plaintiff's attorney, on the case, and it was pretty nasty, and it's been publicly pretty nasty on all sides. I would say that when I'm looking at it as a layperson, I would say that they're both doing shady kind of things. They're both trying to represent their clients the best way that they can, and taking pot shots at the other side any chance that they get. But the major ruling that happened recently was that Jane Doe could rename anonymous for now, until it gets more towards trial. They understand that Shawn Carter and Sean Combs have a right to know who is accusing them, so they can do their due diligence, But already the judge can see, based on the interview that was given in the letter that came in from Alex Spiro and all of the issues that he had. I mean, they have issues with time and place, couldn't possibly have happened. Who she says she talked to couldn't possibly have talked to them. They weren't in the country. Father doesn't remember picking her up, although that's part of her statement. Like, they poked so many holes in her affidavit, in her actual testimony, to do the indicted charges, like do this case, put it forward. No, it's not a criminal case. It's a civil case. And they literally finding so much wrong with it in the beginning. And now Shawn Carter wants to be removed from it totally. He wants his part just tossed, just totally tossed. Now, what will that mean for Sean Combs? Does the whole case get tossed based on these inaccurate statements by the plaintiff already, by Jane Doe? I don't know. I'll just know that Alex Spiro is fighting hard for Shawn Carter. He's got a shark of a lawyer, and he is doing whatever he can to get this completely away from him. Now, damage already done. I mean, once something like this comes out and your name is associated with these kind of things, I mean, things are going to start happening. I'm not sure that this Jane Doe is in any type of position to put up with a countersuit from Shawn Carter for damages if he lost any business deals or anything like that. I don't think Sean Combs is in a solid position about that based on the number of civil suits against him and the fact that he's under criminal charges for similar type events. I don't think he's got the standing. But Sean Carter, if this is some kind of smear in just like an attack on him as a celebrity because he has money, or that because he knows P. Diddy and he's been associated with him, just looping him in, it could cost her dearly. Although, how could she pay? So I think that's why they're actually attacking on the lawyers too, because there is a way for them to pay. And there is a way to actually hurt them back by not being able to practice or having sanctions and stuff. So it's getting pretty heated. It's getting really r- pretty heated. In This is the only part of the civil cases that I've been following, and it's because of the pushback. And I do have a fondness for this attorney, Alex Spiro. I have seen other things that he's done, and he's a shark. Like, he works with Mr. Beast. He's just quick and very legal minded. In He just comes up with this stuff it's inspiring how he maneuvers through the law. He always handles big, high profile cases too. Yep. Yep. Lots of holes in the story. Absolutely, Mrs. Cassandra. It's pretty bad when your own dad doesn't back up your story. Yes. And unfortunately for Jane Doe, where she lived at the time is 5 hours from where she said this happened. You think the man would remember having to drive 5 hours to pick up his daughter in a distraught state like that? Yeah, she would have. It's just not fitting up. It's just not matching up. Your Honor, I file a motion of poo-poo. This is all poo-poo. Thank you, Madam Pelosi. Okay. My new rapper name is Aniomius. Do I know I mispronounced that? Like, shut up, Liam. Stop. But yeah, have at it. Because, yeah, I did do it. Instead of saying anonymous Jane Doe, like, I kind of mangled that pretty well. At least I know you're paying attention. Exactly, a 10-hour trip, you would definitely remember that, and even if it was years ago. Now, granted, this all happened many years ago, so there would be some memory issues here and there. I get that. But she's very specific in her case about who she spoke to, okay, and what happened. And if you're going to be specific, those specifics can be torn apart, and it just doesn't add to her credit. It's really taking away from her credibility. And I don't, I really don't like to get into challenging victims. And if something happened to her, I'm not saying nothing did. I'm saying that her telling of it is being picked apart, like, and it looks like Swiss cheese right now. It does not look like a credible story. There is nothing to back any of it up. And there is questions on who vetted this case. Because Busby's attorney's office says that they received it from another attorney's office, that it was vetted through them. And there's back and forth. I still think it goes on Busby for putting it forward. He could absolutely believe his plaintiff. And and I'm going to say, like, after talking to her, maybe anybody would, but you still have to make sure there's enough there that can be documented and evidenced and can actually be put forward to a jury for this. Unless, of course, as Sean Carter is accusing them of with his attorney, Alex Spiro, your main intent was just to fleece celebrities for money. Then you wouldn't worry about the credibility, because you would think that they're all just worried about the public relations end of it, which means it doesn't have to be true. It could still damage, it could still cause great harm. So it's going back and forth, you know. Corroboration can crumble. Exactly. There's nothing to actually link anything together. And this could be the one case that Diddy could actually walk away from also. If they prove that her story is not credible for one participant, she claims, what would possibly make it credible for the first one she blamed? You know what I mean? Like it's only to his benefit. So his attorneys really aren't doing much on this. His attorneys are all focusing on his criminal charges right now. There's a lot going back and forth with the civil stuff. Just basically the ones that want to rename anonymous. Several of them have been told they have to actually put their name out there. Because they weren't being harassed, nothing was going on. He's in jail now. They can't actually say that like he'd be coming for them. So it kind of takes a little bit of that argument away. And he does have a right to face his accusers. You can't just file civilly, under Jane Doe for the whole length of the case without good cause. Like the court would have to sanction it after a certain period of time, which they have in this one against Shawn Carter. They had said she can remain Jane Doe right now. Basically, she's allowed to remain Jane Doe right now because of the publicity of the case. Basically, that's what the judge was looking at. No. Exactly. If your kid went through a trauma like that, daddy would not forget to. Exactly. Although she's saying she did not tell him what happened, just that she didn't give him the details. But if what happened, she would have been clearly upset. She says she left the house naked. I'm trying to figure out if dad drove her home naked. Like, wouldn't you notice that? Like, where did she get clothes? Unless she gathered her clothes on the way out. I'll have to reread it again. But I do remember her saying that she fled the room naked. And I don't know if she gathered clothes as she left and then put them on as she was leaving. And then she left this mansion type home and walked to a gas station and called her father from a phone booth near there to come get her. Well, the whole story was falling apart. And I it's not unusual to have memory issues for something so long, especially when it involves such a traumatic event as the way that is speaking of it. It was quite traumatic for her. And it's not unusual to have memory issues and all, but it is unusual to actually put everything down so solidly in black and white as if it's true. And if you're having those types of memory issues, it's going to be challenged. And in this case, definitely it was straight out. I have no idea. What did she do for 5 hours waiting for her dad? I have no idea. Dad says he does not recall getting her, so I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if she's even putting together the fact that like where she used to live at the time and where she says she was literally 5 hours away. But Alex Spiro, he's done some research on it and drew those lines, and he put the pegs there and drew the red string, you know, and said 5 hours. So yeah. Exactly. If she was naked, I'm thinking she wasn't naked anymore, Grace. I'm thinking she did get clothes, and I might be missing that she picked them up, and she just didn't, go into detail about putting them on. I'm thinking maybe she grabbed her clothes on the way out, when she was upset. But oh, okay. So without any more questions on this one, we've got one more to finish up with, and then we're going to call it a night. And that, you remember our friend Alec Baldwin? Oh, yes. Alec Baldwin is not done. Okay, from the beginning, when Special Prosecutor Carrie Morrissey came on, way back when Alec Baldwin was first tried in the Rust shooting, the tragic death that happened on his movie set, and he was holding the gun. Those charges were dropped, but then reinstated when the special prosecutor came on, Carrie Morrissey. That there was all this back and forth because the original prosecutor was running for office, so it was got a little political, so they needed to step down. Um, Charges were dropped at that time against Alec Baldwin, and then they were reinstated later. Once Hannah Gutierrez also was charged at the same time by Carrie Morris as a special prosecutor for the office in New Mexico. Now, as a special prosecutor, she went forward and she decided to open the case up against him based on his statements to the press, based on him threatening to sue New Mexico's law enforcement and prosecutor's office for thinking of suing him in the first place, even though they dropped those charges. Actually, it was Carrie Morrison has made statements that they actually went forward with the charges because of his attitude in the press, in his actually threatening to sue everybody. They knew all along that he was going to sue, is what she's saying, and she's out there saying it again now. um he he being Alec Baldwin, on the other hand, he's been making statements back and forth too. In his trial was actually dismissed by the judge based on handling of evidence that the judge felt was handled inappropriately by Carrie Morris's office. Apparently, there were a couple of bullets or shells that were brought in during after everything was done for discovery on evidence. Somebody had found something, brought it forward, and it was the actual handling of that between the offices and what not turned over again to the defense. Although Carrie Morrissey says the defense knew all about it, she did go on record to say that she made a determination that it was not relevant to the case, that they were duplicates or whatever, and nothing was done. Try as she might to convince the judge that everything was above board and no mishandling was done, our judge in that case said, no, no, that is prejudicial. It's not up to you to decide what evidence is pertinent or not. All evidence needs to be turned over to the defense for them to decide if it's relevant to them, because what's relevant to prosecution may not be relevant to the defense. They could have two different ways of looking at it, and she was out of her scope in making that determination on her own and had violated the rules of discovery and therefore tainted the case, and the case was dismissed and cannot be refiled. The judge found Carrie Morris's attitude about the whole thing, in my personal opinion, I watched the judge's face as Carrie Morrissey took that stand to try to defend her actions and adamantly was insinuating she did nothing wrong, instead of not acknowledging that the other prosecutor in the case, when they found out what she was doing, walked away, said, nope, you're not going to, nope, walked away. So many people had issues with this, but Carrie Morrissey was like, nope, we're not going to let this happen. He's not going to get away with this. And she just threw herself on that stand and really annoyed the judge. Unbelievable. Could not believe that she was going so far as to actually say she was entitled to actually ignore the law in certain issues because he didn't, that's basically the gist of it. Like, this is why I didn't do what I was supposed to do, but it wasn't good enough because as far as the judge was concerned, it wasn't her place to make that decision. And she should have known, and she does know, and actually found it a bit offensive that she was fighting so hard against it. It just proved that she was being prejudicial and she was not thinking legally within the parameters of the legal system at that point. Threw the whole case out. So now the case that Alec Baldwin said he was going to file civilly has been filed. He is literally filing against everybody. Yep. He is filing against not only Carrie Morrison, who, by the way, usually has prosecutorial protections because she's in law, like she's part of, you're allowed to prosecute people without them being able to come back at you as even for wrongful conviction, because it's your job. Okay, it's kind of like how a police officer can't not be charged for doing his job unless he does something out of the realm or extraordinary, like against the actual procedures or legal ramifications of something. Okay, so all the prosecution department, the first judicial district attorney's office, Alexandra Hancock, Marissa Paupel, Brian Brandel, the Santa Fe County Board of County Commissioners, they're all the defendants. Alex Baldwin is suing them for violation of rights, okay, conspiracy to cause violation of his rights, malicious abuse of process, intentional spoliation of evidence, defamation, violations of the New Mexico Civil Rights Act, and he wants a jury trial. He said that the prosecution office, namely Carrie Morrison, had a personal vendetta against him. She had said it publicly, which is a problem because there are many articles when they were getting ready to charge him again. She was quoted as saying that he could not get away with it because he was entitled or felt privileged, and kind of attacked him for his attitude and other things that he had done, that he was a bad guy. She spoke a little too much because now she's at risk of actually this case going forward because she may not have the law enforcement protection she thinks she does is the prosecutor's office. Because when she actually made those personal statements, she actually was going outside of the scope of doing her job. And it does sound like that's where he's going with it. It's an interesting read. He's got good lawyers. They lay it out that this was all a personal attack. They decided to make him a scapegoat. They decided to push this forward for an election. The first prosecutor was actually running for office. That this was organized well within the state prosecutor's office, and that he should not be victim of their agenda, so to speak. Now, I'm not a fan of Alec Baldwin, but I did not become a fan of Carrie Morrissey either. I found her to be quite offensive in her "I'll do whatever I have to do" attitude. I agree with do what you have to do within the confines of the law and professionalism. Best foot forward in the justice system. And quite often during these trials, Carrie Morrissey did not. Now, she was successful in getting a guilty verdict in Hannah Gutierrez. That's under appeal. And because it's the same evidence involved in both cases, she's put that case at risk too with that evidence. Although the judge in that case, they don't actually think that that would have done anything either way. But still, it does get looked at now. She has opened herself up for a reevaluation there, and we'll see how Hannah Gutierrez does with her appeals in regards to that. I don't know if it's going to get very far about it. There seems to be some acknowledgement that that defense team did know about these other bullets or shells that they're talking about, which are only like 3. And Miss Morrissey has said she does believe that they are exactly the same as other ones that are already entered into evidence. So I don't know. Still, if somebody brings it forward, it's still some certain things need to happen. How much? Beyond my scope. I'm not a lawyer. What I do know that it's going to weigh heavily here in this civil lawsuit that Alec Baldwin is bringing forward. Now, we've watched Alec Baldwin age during his trial a lot, and he was under a lot of stress. And he doesn't look like a lot of that stress has gone away, but he does feel that his reputation has been damaged. I kind of chuckle at that a little bit because his reputation is just being the big bastard that he is still there. Being entitled, ordering people around. We heard the testimony from many about how he was on set. It kind of went. It didn't take the prosecutor to do that to him. That already existed. But there is a thing about being called a murderer. There is a thing about being blamed for the demise of such a young, well-loved woman, leaving behind a child and a husband. He does feel that he's been damaged, and he does feel that he has been attacked on purpose, a target, as the scapegoat to further a personal political agenda by the prosecution's office. So we're going to have to see where this one goes. I'm going to just watch it kind of from the sidelines. I'm not going to talk too much about it unless it like really, really blows up. But absolutely, they are definitely going forward with it so far. We'll have to see how the prosecution actually defends themselves in this manner. Well, and I've been listening to a few of the legal YouTubers, and I've read a few of the legal articles on it, that normally you cannot actually sue the prosecution team for doing their job. But because of this political public relations thing that happened around the shooting at the time, because one of the prosecutors was running for office, and because there were microphones involved in interviews given before and after indictments and charges that seemed to be a bit prejudicial, they may be open to actually face it as civilians with an agenda. So we'll see. It's going to be up to the court to decide whether it can go forward. And that will be step one. And we're not there yet. He just filed. So now we have to wait and see what happens. Because, it could just get tossed because you can't sue those. But it's going to be up to them to get lawyers to file. And here's the other thing. Is Carrie Morrissey now, is her job now under scrutiny? Is a special prosecutor to defend yourself in a civil case like this? Like, will the prosecutor's office itself hire the attorneys? Will they use this, the regular defendants attorneys, for the indigent? Like, who has that kind of money to go against someone who has a lot of money to spare in regards to this litigation? Now, Carrie Morrissey says she spoke out because she knew all along he was going to sue, that there were rumors, and he had threatened them repeatedly with suing them if they even thought about charging him, which is why they went forward and charged him, according to her in her statements. Well, we'll see what happens. Like, legally, normally you cannot actually sue the prosecution team for any accusation about you, because they had to go through an indictment process. And there's the thing. There was enough evidence for the grand jury to indict him, for a judge to, let the case go forward. So even if there was a personal reason, it does appear that there was enough there for it to be justified. And it's a matter of how they did it that's coming under scrutiny. So I'm really interested in this because, Alec Baldwin does have certain rights, and you can't violate his rights. So did they? Although it was probably not very professional to speak the way they did about him, did they actually violate code of conduct or any law that he can sue for? Did they actually make it a personal agenda, or were they just talking out of hat? Kind of hard to tell, right? Well, that's the part that makes it interesting for me. So on that, yeah, I think I'm going to call it. I'm going to check for some questions. His reputation has been shit for a long time. Paula, you put it pretty bluntly, but you're absolutely correct. It's not like he had a good one to begin with, Yeah, the using a career building case to get votes in politics is slimy. I agree, Liam. And I think Alec Baldwin has a good point here. And that may be the linchpin that actually lets this civil suit go forward. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. He's dumb for filing this. It's not a good look, let alone he already won. Get out while the getting is good. Exactly. But you know how these, okay, now let's hope I don't get a lawsuit for this, because I'm going to say this in general. You know how those in the entertainment industry, all press is good press. Like, get your name out there. Your name has to stay out there so other people think of you for projects and this and that and the other thing. Now, of course, there are things you don't want to be associated with, but the fact that people are talking is normally considered a good thing, no matter what. And also, I think he's very like I just think he's petty. I think it shows him to be very petty, and that has been his reputation. Like Janae said, it's not been a good one anyway. He's been pretty vile and petty in regards to things like this all along. Okay. Um, it's vindictive. He doesn't need the money, and that's all he'll get out of this because his reputation is already trashed. Right. It's not going to restore it. If anything, it makes it a little worse. But maybe he's trying to bully people into stop, telling the truth about him. I don't know. Taking down person X will get me position Y in local government is not a good attitude for a public servant. Nope, it never is. It never is. It speaks of vendetta and favoritism and things like that. It's not good. Totally. Mrs. That was a lot to update. Good job. Oh, thank you, Mrs. Cassandra. Yes, it was. And this is what I'll be doing on Tuesday nights because I do a little more video during the week. And I'm covering the trials as you see as they're happening and also the hearings, and putting up videos with commentary on those, all throughout the week individually. But I do want to do a weekly recap of the big highlights of the week, like every week. And of course, we're going to go um, forward with that on Tuesdays. I've already done multiple cases, but I would expect a minimum of 4 and up to 6, like every week, But I do appreciate it. Thank you, Anna, for the compliment. That was very nice. Thank you very much. Rocket Couch says, and this is regards to Alec Baldwin, I feel like he's doing it to make himself look better, only to make everyone else look worse. Exactly. And Jinsu says, seems like Baldwin is acting just like the Cheeto in charge that he portrayed on Saturday Night Live. What an asshat. Exactly. It's not making him look very good. He is absolutely not looking any better than those prosecutors right now. I really think there's been wrong done on all sides here, but I don't think the finger pointing at each other is going to come out with a winner. Like I really don't. Like I do think that the prosecution did talk out of turn rather on a very high profile case. That's not that unusual. We've seen lots of high profile cases where the prosecution will come out and say something. We'll speak to the press. We'll do. I mean, look at District Attorney Tierney when it comes to Lisk or the Babylon body parts case. Like he actually takes the mic and tells you what's going. Like told you what was going on when there's going to be new charges, and speaks on it. And it's not that unusual. Okay, when it's a big high profile case, you know and it was a tragedy. Loaded gun on the set of a movie should not happen ever. And it had not happened ever until this. And the family deserves justice. The victim deserves justice. It needed to be checked into. There was no way no one was walking away from this without something being done. So I think Alec Baldwin, as a producer and the actor holding the gun, like, let's not forget that he's a producer here too. And he had a lot of clout in what was done. The hiring of people, the reason such a young woman, Hannah Gutierrez, was in that position is partly Alex Baldwin's fault. He's one of the producers. They weigh in on everything. The hiring of all the employees, the structure, what gets done. In During that trial, we heard a lot about how he treated people and what was going on, how he rushed Hannah constantly and didn't actually let her do her job. Although doing her job is her responsibility, regardless of what he did. So I'm not saying that she's not guilty because she is also, but he can't walk away from this scot free, although he has. And it is Carrie Morrissey's fault, and it is the prosecution's department as a whole should have done better. It's a loophole. I get it. But what she did afterwards and how she's been speaking on it, this is the civil lawsuit. It's personal. It's like it seems like it's very personal between Alec Baldwin and Carrie Morrissey. The whole thing. He keeps mentioning things that she said. She keeps mentioning things he said all the way from the beginning, you know. Exactly. Couch says Rust was just a comedy of errors in Baldwin is the headliner. Exactly. He is complicit in some way. And I think accountability needed to be had. I think most of us just wanted some accountability for the victim and the victim's family. Um, Liam says he thinks Hannah was railroaded in order to direct blame from him. I do believe that they left her hanging out to dry as far as the production company and the support on the set. I do believe that there was a push that way. But as the armorer of the set, she does have to take some accountability. There was a live round on the set. How could she not know that? Like, she does have to take responsibility for that. Although I do agree with you, there was a lot of railroading on the side of the production company in the movie, the studio itself, Alec Baldwin himself, just making sure that she got the lump of it. Um, Definitely, because nobody else wants to be responsible. There are many people that played a part in this. The assistant director already took blame for his part. He's part of the double check. He said, I didn't double check well enough. And he pled. He took accountability. He pled and he did his part. It's horrible what happened. And I wanted more people to actually stand up the way David the did in that case. And I forget his last name right now, but he actually took his part of the responsibility. He pled, he testified, he did what he could. Um, because nothing was going to change the outcome. Um, Basically, it is to not let it ever happen again. Take the accountability. Let's look at what happened. Let's everybody be honest about it, and let's make sure nothing like this can ever happen again. But everybody was just deflecting and running away. Yeah. But on that, let me just tell you a couple of other things that are coming up for this month of January. Next week, actually, we have Rex Harriman within the next day or so has a status hearing. Courtney Clenny on the 21st. And then, of course, around the 23rd, we go with Brian Kohlberger. Towards the end of the month, we've got Jeffrey Mackey and Alex Nives. They will be in New York, Suffolk County for status hearings. They are two that have not gone for not having a preliminary hearing or anything. They have not pled. They are actually still in jail, and this is for the Suffolk County body parts, uh, where their friend was dismembered, where they found the body parts in all the different areas over there in Babylon. And these are the two that are coming up for their status hearings. The other two have made plea deals and have had pled guilty. That would be Amanda Wallace and Stephen Brown. They are awaiting further along, probably another month or so away. But that's what we got coming up. No live trial that I see. There are other live trials going on that I'm not covering. But we'll be definitely getting to you guys with the hearings that are going on and keeping up to date with all the other active 23 cases. No matter what, it's 23. We closed out a few, and it's still 23. I got nothing on Sarah Boone's appeal yet, of course, nothing that, or Hannah Gutierrez's appeal. Well, not even as far as Masterson, they granted more time for that appeal. So I don't know. And also for the Murdaugh appeal, that very, very long appeal was just put in. They got some extra time to follow all on that. And that also is still in the works. So we've got a couple of things, still working around on appeal. But on that, I think I'm going to call it a night, guys. You know, Good luck with that guilty song, Rocky Couch. I can't wait to hear it. Liam leaves us with this. Sarah Boone is not appealing. She's not appealing. She's not appealing as far as a person, but she was appealing, I thought. I thought they gave her an attorney. But anyway. Yep. And everybody go join Rocket Couch occasionally over there on Twitch. He's getting lonely. I'm sorry about that, Couch. But on that, I'm going to end it. You all have a great night, and I'll see you during the week.